Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to my man Minaj. He's joined my Patreon. He's helping support the show and I'm helping him level up his life. Do you want me to give you a shout out at the beginning of my show? Join my Patreon today. Patreon.com/ComeOnManPod. Link is in the description. And here's the show.
You're listening to the premier podcast for men who want to not only be better with women, but want to be better men in general. This is the Come On Man podcast. And here's your host, Paul Bauer.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another week of Come On Man. If you haven't done so already, please like, fave, subscribe, hit those notifications. If you are listening on your favorite audio platform of choice, please give us a 5-star review and actually write out why you like listening to the show. I say this every week. Y'all know that. In fact, if you guys have been paying attention, the last 3 weeks or whatever, I'm still wearing the same shirt. And I'm still drinking the same Dr. Pepper and cream soda, zero sugar. It's delicious. It's like the never-ending can. Literally the same can. Literally for 4 weeks straight. So comment in the description, Dr. Pepper, and I'll know that you're paying attention. And it helps boost us in the algorithm. So on YouTube, comment Dr. Pepper below and hit that like button. All right, guys. Also, be sure to sign up for the Patreon. There's a lot of you guys that reach out to me on in the DMs and TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, on Facebook. Like, people DM me all the time. They have all sorts of relationship questions. There's people that want me to do lives. I don't do lives. So if you go to my Patreon, you can sign up and actually talk to me if you want. There's one-on-one options where we can do a Zoom call like this. It's more personable than me answering, your text message in a DM on Instagram as well. Like we can actually talk. But if you don't want to pay for the one-on-one, I get it. It's not for everybody. But I do also have in the lower tier, I have an option for my private Discord server. And with that, you get access to a community of like-minded guys that are there to level up. You can learn from each other. And then you also pretty much have direct text, chat interaction with me to ask questions. And I'm happy to help anytime you want in that avenue as well. So you don't have to do the Zoom calls if you don't want. And, just you can just join the community too, if that's all you're looking for. All right. Getting on with the show here. Joining me this week is a man that's gone through an epic shitstorm of craziness and catastrophe in his life. Just hearing his story, you guys are going to go, Jesus, most guys would have given up on half the stuff this guy's gone through in his life, and he keeps pushing on. And so he's decided to make that his life purpose, to share his story and help other guys get through adversity. They call him Mr. Tenacity. His wife gave him that name. We talk a little bit about that, but his real name is Chad Osinga. Fascinating conversation, fascinating cat. You'll really like his story, and I'll bring you that conversation right after this. I get dudes that hit me up by a DM on social media, asking for advice on dating, relationships, texting, divorce, you name it. I also get guys that want me to do live sessions more. Then there are guys that want to tell me their story and have a one-on-one conversation. Guys, I hear you. And now you have some options. Here's the thing though. I'm a busy guy. And on top of that, I hate giving men advice and have it go in one ear and out the other. The only way to solve for that is to make sure that you have some skin in the game. In order to help you guys out that really want it, I've decided to sign up for Patreon. If you visit patreon.com/ComeOnManPod, you can join one of 3 tiers. The first tier gives you access to my exclusive Discord community, where I'm trying to build a support system of like-minded guys, where we can all compare notes and give advice to each other. With that, you also get advice directly from me, and I'll answer your questions as I have time. In the second tier, you get to join a group Zoom call with me. Here, you and 9 other dudes can chat live with me over Zoom. It's way better than a live stream and will be way more personable because you actually get to talk with me, not just write questions in a chat like some peasant. Finally, for guys who really want help, you can have live one-on-one sessions with me. Both the second and third tiers have limited space, so sign up now because those seats will fill up quickly. Each tier gives you better bonuses as well, like my personal behind-the-scenes dating and relationship updates, as well as ad-free interviews published before the general public gets to see them. Support the show and let me help you. Join my Patreon today at patreon.com/comeonmanpod. That's patreon.com/comeonmanpod. All right, joining me this week is a man that has gone through an epic shitstorm of craziness and catastrophe in his life. He's pushed through stuff that most men would have thrown in the towel on several occasions. They call him Mr. Tenacity. Please welcome Chad Osinga. What's going on, brother?
How are you, man? I'm blessed to be here.
Yeah, me too, man. So tell me, first thing off, who gave you the name Mr. Tenacity?
My wife.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or was it like you gave yourself that name?
No, my wife did. She was like, dude, you are tenacious. Your new name is Mr. Tenacity, especially after this last motorcycle wreck. And I learned I got back on my motorcycle within 5 months of dying twice. And so I learned how to walk, all that crazy stuff. So
yeah, I have some questions about your motorcycle incidents. But first, let's go back to the beginning. You grew up in Virginia, right? And you still live out there. We were talking off air about that.
Yes. Right now I'm in the Fredericksburg area, but I'm from Stuart Strath, Virginia, which is like a small hick town, kind of country.
Kind of country. Okay. I told you I was stationed out in Dam Neck for a while when I was in Operations Specialist A school for the Navy. How far away is where you are now from Virginia Beach? That's essentially where Dam Neck is.
About 2 hours.
It's a 2-hour drive. Okay.
Yeah, right before the bridge that you would go into Virginia Beach, it's about an hour and a half. So depending, that bridge, I can't remember the name of it, but it's hellacious, dude. So sometimes it's easy going across. Sometimes you're there for like 3 hours. So. Got it.
Okay. Now when I was stationed there, I got my first tattoo, which is like this yin and yang. You can't, maybe people can see it. Yeah, the inner part, the little baby tattoo. I got that. I had to go all the way up to Newport News to get it because in Virginia Beach, tattoos were outlawed. Is there any kind of stuff like that
no.
that you're aware of?
No, I've never heard of. That's crazy.
Yeah, there were no shops. I don't know if it was a city ordinance or what, but no tattoo shops in Virginia Beach. And my buddy and I had to go all the way up to Newport News.
Dude, that's crazy. No, I have sleeves. So yeah, I'm all about tattoos. The worst thing that I've had to experience was the dry counties in Kentucky when I was stationed there. Uh-huh. That sucked because then you had to go to Louisville or somewhere else just to have a beer. So,
that stuff blows my mind because I live about, I don't know, 45 minutes now. Let's see, maybe an hour and a half from Utah. And Utah has some, they're not dry, but for the longest time, you could only get 3.2 beer and stuff in Utah. It's like those types of blue laws are just annoying to me.
It's ridiculous. It's weird.
So speaking of alcohol, I guess that's a good segue into addictions and stuff like that. Now, you were raised, your mom was a drug addict, you said?
Oh yeah. She was for lack of better words, she was a crackhead, man. She really was strung out. I love her, but she couldn't kick it, man. Before I was born, she was really strung out, and alcohol, I don't really believe in the gateway situation. I believe that your mind, it's a mental situation, right? Like if you're have a weaker mentality, then anything will take you to the stronger thing, right? And so she was of that nature, right? And so it started with alcohol, and then she started smoking some bud. And then next thing you know, she got into cocaine and then crack. And it was just a really bad situation. She ended up actually ODing and passing away when I was younger. So. Oh,
wow. Oh, okay. Yeah. Cause you said in one of your interviews that she had various drug dealers stay at your house
Yeah. Yeah.
while you were growing up?
Yeah, dude. I had a whole bunch. I came home one night and I met like this kingpin guy from New York. And within like a month, they had set up shop in our home. I think 14 years old, my house got raided by several different law enforcement agencies and federal law enforcement agencies. And because it was such a small town area, it was a great market for them. It was untapped when it came to like the crack and the cocaine epidemic. Like it was really untouched, but it was a blue collar, and we had a lot of poverty because we had like the crank and stuff like that. But that was it. They kind of were able to blow the doors open on that side of the market. We had drugs like kilos in my backyard. I had no clue. I was, I'm a clueless teenager that they would get to sell drugs for them, but I didn't really know the depth, you know what I mean? And apparently the whole drug ring was from New York all the way down to Miami.
Yeah. Wow. So it wasn't like they were just local, street corner drug dealers that were dating your mom. These guys were like, hey, we're going to work with you. We're going to set up shop at your mom's house and let's cook stuff here.
Yeah. They didn't necessarily cook it. They went and got it. They had their suppliers, and we would do a lot of trips to New York, and they would take me with them, and they would re-up and get their supply, and we'd bring it back down to Virginia, and they would, all right. So the real thing they would do is they would go into hotels. Mm-hmm. And so these cheaper middle of the road hotels, they would rent one per night, and each night they would cut up the drugs, bag them up, and they would switch to a new one. They would sell it, cut them up, do it, or distribute to a lower distributor, and then move to the next one. So they were always on the go. There was never like a solid location. And then my house was kind of where they would just go to hang out and cool their heels and hide the kilos that they had, which I had no clue was happening. Got it.
Yeah. Wow. It's funny that you're talking about how this was like the perfect place for a drug operation, because so I live out in the middle of nowhere myself in rural Colorado, and I dated a gal there's a town called Fruita about an hour and 20 minutes from me, and she was a Fruita police officer, and on a date we went on a ride along. Like I went on a ride along with her, and it was awesome. And she showed me every drug house in town, because the cops knew where all the drugs were and who were doing it.
Right.
And then one time while we're driving, she pointed out a license plate from New York, and she goes, "You see that plate? That's from New York." And I go, "Yeah, interesting." She goes, "I bet you if we followed him, he'll go to one of our drug houses." And I was like, "Really?" And she goes, "Oh yeah, they come here. It's a major hub because they have guys from New York coming in, and then they're running drugs to like out to LA and stuff like that, but they're doing it all through here. It's like a major hub." And I was like, that is fascinating as hell.
Yeah, dude. They travel, and they're pretty strategic. I mean, look, all the dumb ones go to prison really quick, right? Like, yeah, if they're moving drugs, they've got somebody behind kind of making the plans and making the connections in these areas where they can make, a shit ton of money, man.
Yeah. Wow. That's fascinating. So, so your house was raided at 14. In one of your interviews, you said that you were sent off to live with relatives for a while.
Yeah. So my mom went to prison, and I didn't know at the time, but I was on probation, and part of the court order was for me to live in Oklahoma with some family. I didn't really know them, and that was an equally bad situation. They were heavily into church, and my aunt actually worked at the church there, and they were very much holier than thou. When I got there, they treated me, now granted, I'm 14 and a half, 15, something like that, when I finally get to them, and they would spank me with a wooden paddle, right? Mm-hmm. Which I'm not against spanking, but they would do it to the point where I'm bleeding, right? Like black and blue and bleeding. And my uncle, when I got there, I was anemic. I was real skinny because I wasn't eating very well. My mom spent all of her money on drugs. And like I was telling you before, the little bit of money I did get from selling drugs, it was just a couple bucks here and there. They took the bulk of it. So I didn't have a lot of nourishment or good nourishment. And so I was very frail, and I was thrown down the hallway before over the smallest of things. And then at one point, they put me in the corner like I'm 4 years old. They made me stand there, eat there, and do my schoolwork there. I was there they would put me there multiple times, right? Like every time I would get in trouble, just stick me in this corner like I'm a 3-year-old. And it was really degrading, man. Like, and they wouldn't allow me to talk to my mom. They wouldn't allow me to talk to any family that was back in Virginia. And the few times that they did, they monitored the phone calls. They opened up all of my mail and read it before I got it. Like, it was really, really intrusive, and I couldn't do it, man. So I ended up running away. The first time I got busted, I didn't have a plan, right? Like, so yeah. I just knew I was fed up. And so back then, basketball was my relief. If I was on a basketball court, I felt happy. Like, no matter what was going on in my world, that was my happy place. And they allowed me to play for like this rec club. And I got bad marks in school or something. Like, I can't really remember. I did something, and they took it away from me. And that was it. That was my only coping mechanism, not to lose my shit, right? So I said, I'm done. I got home from school, grabbed my bike, and took off down in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, just going, right? I had no clue of where or how I was going to make this thing work. Long story short, I ended up, I don't know if you ever heard of Rhema Bible College, but they were actually having an event, and he allowed me into the event, and I stayed there until like 9 or 10 o'clock that night. And then finally wandered around and ended up at a gas station looking at donuts like they were steaks. Like, I was so hungry, man. And I didn't know there was a curfew for underage, juveniles in that part of Oklahoma. The cash register called the police, and next thing you know, here comes the police and my uncle. So, that didn't turn out well.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 weeks later, I formulated a new plan, a little more put together. I made a deal with a classmate and was like, hey, man, just take me to the edge of town. You can drop me off wherever. I'll take it from there. And I got to it. Back then it was payphones. I had about I had enough money for 3 phone calls. And I called my grandmother in Virginia, was like, hey, I need your help. And, the universe works in really mysterious ways, because this gas station was like really not used. It was like, I think maybe 2 people showed up the entire 3 or 4 hours I was there. And the second person I just pleaded with, I came out clean. I was like, hey, I need your help. I need to get back to Virginia. And he paid for me to get a cab all the way to the airport. We actually sent him the money back, so he didn't believe I would, but we did. And so my grandmother had a ticket waiting for me at the airport, got to the airport, flew back. And I think that next day is when I found out I was on probation, because the sheriffs showed up to her house and they arrested me.
Oh, they showed up to your grandma's house.
Yeah.
Back in Virginia.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. But you were on probation from a court order in Virginia?
Yeah, it's stimulated in Virginia. And I guess part of the stipulations was I had to be under my aunt and uncle's supervision in Oklahoma. So when I flew to Virginia, that was breaking the probation. Yeah. And they were glad to apprehend me.
Did you, did your grandma try to fight it at all, at least, and say, hey, look, his conditions there aren't good. You put him in my custody and let's call it a day? Or?
Yeah, they wouldn't give it to my grandmother because they said that she was too old. But okay. I had another aunt that was actually staying with my grandmother to take care of her, and they agreed to give custody to my other aunt. So okay. I was able to stay in Virginia at that point.
Okay. Was that a much better situation then?
Yes. Mentally, I was already far gone. Like, I was really, I didn't care at that point. Like, I was really angry at the world. So the damage had been done, but it was definitely a better situation.
That's good. So another thing that I saw was that you somehow, were you a teenager when you met your wife?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Actually, when I came back, that was like the shining moment in my life. I swear to you, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm telling you, the universe works in crazy, crazy ways. So when I finally got back to Virginia and all the court stuff got figured out, they sent me to the school in the district, and they wouldn't accept me. They were like, hey, they, leveraged that my house had been raided and all, just my mother's past. And they said, we don't want this guy at our school. So they made me go to another school outside of the district, which is where I met my wife. And I ended up dropping out of school, but we stayed together, right? Like we stayed in touch and ended up dating, and we've actually been together for 24 years, married for 19.
Okay, got it. Yeah, and you said that she's sort of the one that told you to get your shit together, right? And that's one of the reasons why you joined the Army. Yeah,
dude. She was like, hey man, if you want to be with me, because I was still, like I said, I was really set in my ways. The way I grew up, I thought that the only thing I could be was what I saw around me, which was drug dealers, violence. And so even though I wasn't selling crack, I was still selling marijuana, and I was still getting in trouble and fights. And, she was like, hey man, like, if you want to be with me, clean up your shit, or, you can kiss this relationship goodbye. And I was not willing to let that happen, dude. I cut off all those friends, everything, dude. Like, and then eventually it boiled into me joining the Army because I had no other skill sets, or, I dropped out after the 9th grade. Like I didn't have anything to offer a traditional business. So I was like, Army, here I come, they'll take anybody.
Where did you get the specific idea to join the Army though?
Well, my grandfather was a Marine.
Okay.
And he fought in World War II and the Korean War. And I looked up to him until he died. Like, he was my hero. I actually tried to join the Marines at first, but because I dropped out of high school, I didn't have any college, and I had tattoos on my forearm, at that time, they weren't accepting anybody in the Marines. And what happened was, I guess that recruiter gave my name to an Army recruiter who reached out to me, and they were like, hey, they won't do it, but we will.
Yeah, I have a similar story. I was originally going to join the Air Force. I was in high school my senior year. I was in weight training class. I specifically remember it. I'm on the chest fly machine, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, the real world's coming at me. I have no money for college. I don't want to live with my parents. Like, what are my options? And it just dawned on me. I go, you have 2 cousins in the Air Force, and the Air Force has the GI Bill. Like, that could pay for college. Why don't you reach out to a Air Force recruiter? So I did. But at that, I went to MEPS for the Air Force, and I told them at MEPS that I had asthma. I was diagnosed with asthma when I was in junior high, because they had that whole thing about, if you lie to us, it's a $10,000 fine and 10 years in prison. And I was like, they're the government. They have to know everything. And so if I lie, they'll figure this out. Guys, just to let you know, the government is incompetent. They do not know. I could have just kept that to myself. They would have had no idea. But so they sent me home from MEPS that day. My recruiter tried to get me a waiver, but the Air Force is very strict because, let's face it, it's not a real military job. It's like they're kind of pansies. So they take all the cushy people. Yeah. And so they're very selective because a lot of people want to join the Air Force. But my friends were all joining the Navy, and the Navy recruiter's like, shit, we put known crack addicts in the Navy. Like, let me talk to them, and ended up going in the Navy instead. And I'm much happier too. I'm glad I went in the Navy instead of.
Yeah. That's awesome, dude. That's awesome.
So the Corps was a little too strict on high school graduation status and tattoos. So you opted for the Army instead.
Yes. And it was a great decision. I kind of like you. I'm very happy I chose that path. At first I wasn't. I didn't know what the hell I just got myself into, but looking back, I'm ecstatic that that's the route I went to, and everything kind of played the way it did. For sure.
Yeah, and so in the Army, you ended up becoming a sniper.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not something easy to attain.
Oh, hell no, it's not. That was incredibly hard. And I didn't go to the Fort Benning sniper school. I actually was afforded the opportunity to go to a special operations sniper school in Fuhlendorf, Germany. And it was extremely hard. I will not lie to you. It was a gentleman's course. So meaning every night you could do whatever you wanted, right? It was located on a NATO base. And on the weekends, there was no, unless there was training, you were free to do whatever you wanted to do. So honestly, your failing and your passing was solely on you. Like you could truly bomb it or excel. And I'll never forget, like I would come home because I was married and I had my wife. I would, make sure I came home on the weekends and people would be like, hey, dude, you failed, right? Right? You failed. You had to have failed. That's why you're here. They didn't understand that it was a gentleman's course and they allowed you to do that. But it showed me how many people really thought that I was going to fail. Right. And, I'm not going to lie. There was many times I thought I was going to fail too, because like in the very beginning, there was a hellacious ruck march that, knocked out quite a few people. They didn't make it through the ruck march. There was a language test that nixed a few people. It was just really tough just right out the gate. And then throughout the process, they didn't really tell you where you were as far as passing, failing, any of that, right? And so you really, they left it to wonder, they made sure that they made sure that if you really wanted it, you were going to put the effort, right? They put it all on you. And, it was one of the best experiences in my life because it really showed me who I was at a greater level. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There were way more experienced people than me that failed, right? All the way up until the very last exercise. And it was good to come back at the end and say, this guy passed, right? Mm-hmm. Despite everybody else's disbelief in me, I chose to put my head down and continue to study. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't go out often. Like a couple of times I would go out with the instructors because the instructors would go out and get shit faced with you. Like it was like, there was a time where a few of us got in trouble with the police and got in a fight with some Turkish people and ended up having to run. And long story short, the police came to the NATO base and pulled everybody out of class the next day. And it was what it was. We got out of it, but things like that could happen very easily, right? And you mm-hmm. can really screw that opportunity up just as fast as you got it. So I really kept my head down. I studied a lot and just knew that if I didn't, I wasn't going to make it. I put that kind of mentality in myself. Like I have to work harder than everybody else here. And that's exactly what I did.
Got it. Now, you mentioned a little bit there, and also in one of your other interviews, that the military is sort of, one of the best decisions you ever made. I personally think that like all kids should at least do it one tour of the military. Hit 18, go do at least 4 years and see the world a little bit. Live away from your parents. Uncle Sam will pay your way and, give you a place to sleep and give you some food and stuff like that, but get some life experience. I think like for me, it made me grow up so quick, and a lot of men today don't have that. They don't have that at all.
No. And I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It makes you grow up, but it also teaches you some core values to live by that you can apply outside of the military into like everything. And it really sets you apart. Like kind of like what you're saying, like there's so many men out here that they don't really have those core values and they, get into these businesses or these corporations and, they can't rise to the top because there's no substance on the inside of them. Right. They don't have anything that any standard that they live by. And the Army teaches you a standard, even at the most minuscule level, they teach you a standard to live by. And I think that is real important.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand too, that you can pretty much do anything in the military. So I dated this gal once, and her son was a musician. Like he was really into music and like acting and stuff like that. And he was like, I don't think the military's for me. I go, dude, the Navy has a musician's rate. You could go in and be a professional musician in the U.S. Navy.
Yeah, dude. The Army has electricians, carpenters, mechanics, like.
Navy has all that shit too. Yeah.
Right. So like you said, the music, like you could literally do almost whatever you want to do on the outside world, and you can do it inside the military. And then you have the real world application, right? And you're going to have the advantage over everyone in your age group as you apply. It's such an advantage, but people are scared of discipline and scared of a little boot to the ass. And
well, I think a lot of people too just have the misconception that everyone goes to fight war. Like, if I join, I'm going to be on the front lines. Not always, like it just depends on what's going on. You, on the other hand, as a sniper, got to see some action in Iraq, though.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's how you ended up getting medically retired, right?
Yeah, I went off a roof and landed head first, and like my nods, for those who don't know, my night vision went like right into my eyes. So like the jelly around my eyes are like dented and bent in. And so I see blotches basically as I look around. They don't want to do surgery on it because of the way it's positioned and because it's the jelly around my retina. So my neck got all janked up. And then I think just because the physicality of the job, over time, I ended up having multiple surgeries, and at the 10-year mark, they were like, "Hey, dude, you're done, man. You're no good." And I also was facing a little bit of PTSD at the 10-year mark. I was starting to really struggle with some things, but I believe that having a mission is real important to kind of pushing past all that. And when I got out, I was really sour that they booted me because I wanted to do 30 years. I would have done 30 years and stayed in wholeheartedly. So I was a little sour because I had put so much effort into getting where I was at the 10-year mark. Like I ended up becoming an instructor in the military, and I was able to teach combat applications to all 4 branches. I have taught literally all 4 branches. Plus I have taught the FBI, U.S. Marshals, DEA, CIA. Like I've been able to operate at a real high level. And then, for them to say, we can't get the money's worth out of you. Goodbye. It was a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize it too. Like, but when you sign your life away in the dotted line, you're essentially government property, and they can decide what to do with you at will. And it's not. I mean, it's like you really, when you get out. Your circumstance, you're a little upset, which is expected. But when you get out, you really enjoy your freedom at that point, because you are now really free, and you're like, this is what freedom really is. And a lot of people that haven't gone in and experienced that, they don't know. They take it for granted every day.
Yeah, the ability to wear different color socks at the same time is truly a superpower, man. It really
is. To grow your beard.
Right. You see this epic beard, right?
Yeah. Can't have that shit in the Army.
Oh, hell no.
So when you got out, you said like it's really important to have a purpose. You were lacking a little bit of a purpose there, right? So you got into alcohol and weed abuse.
Oh, dude.
Fell back into old programming then.
Yeah, I did. I went right back to kind of the same thing that my mom got wrapped up in, and with it, like I said, having a mission is very, very essential, and I think for men, period, it's very important for us, right? The mission doesn't have to necessarily be in the military, right? But you have to have, I call it a North Star, right? Where are you going? And if you don't know where you're going, you start kind of doing circles, right? And that's exactly what I was doing. I was drinking a 5th of whiskey a night. I think I was smoking about an ounce of weed a week. I was blowing my money. I just wanted to numb my mind. And I don't know if you've ever heard the expression, an idle mind is the devil's playground.
Mm-hmm.
But that was very true for me. Right. And I had never faced that much of my demons as I did once I exited the military.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't necessarily have that purpose. It was like game on in my mind, right? And I didn't want to, at first I didn't want to face it, right? Like I didn't want to deal with it. And I was looking for any and everything that would take that evil away from me, right? I couldn't sleep at night. Like that's where it started. It started with nightmares, couldn't go to sleep. And so I was like, I'm gonna drink. Well, I have a super high tolerance, and maybe it's the military in me, but you know,
yeah, it is, my man. Just kidding.
But a little bit wasn't working, right? It built into a fifth, and I could do a fifth and operate like machinery, probably, right? Like not like me thinking I could. Like people
don't understand just like how bad alcoholism is in the military. Like we would regularly get our guided missile cruiser underway, and half the crew was still drunk from the night before.
Exactly.
Sound.
Yeah. I mean, well, you think like the shopettes and like AFEs or whatever, they're open 24 hours a day, at least where I was. And you could buy, like in Germany, you could buy alcohol all night. It didn't matter if it was 5 o'clock in the morning and you had a formation at 5:05, right?
Yeah.
Like they sell you a bottle and say, have fun, buddy. Right. But yeah, I could drink, dude. And so that turned into a fifth being just my normal, right? That wasn't even if I was really trying to get turned up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was pretty bad.
You got pretty heavy into weed too. Now, you said in one of your interviews that like you don't touch any of that stuff anymore. You're like weed's legal in a lot of places now, but you still won't touch it. Do you not touch weed because you think it like you'll get back into it, or it's just not good for you, or what's your thing?
No, I'm a firm believer that weed helps a lot of people. Okay. And I think that it helps with PTSD in a lot of, but I think to each, different strokes for different folks. Right. And
sure.
For me, during this process or this journey of mastering my mind and mastering myself, I feel phenomenal without it. That's really why I don't go back to it. I can be around it. I can be around people drinking. I have no desire. I just don't even have a desire. So I think if I did, I probably wouldn't be opposed. It's legal where I'm at, in Virginia. So it's not something that is against the law or something that, quote unquote, I couldn't do. I don't want to do it. And I feel the best that I've felt in my life without either of those things in my life. So
got it. Yeah, that makes sense. And then you also, after the military, survived 2 severe motorcycle accidents. You mentioned motorcycle, the last one at the top of the episode here. What happened with those? Because I ride bikes, but I haven't been riding them that long. And I'm always, when I'm out riding, I'm just constantly like, I just assume everyone's out to kill me and no one can see me. And I'm just like ultra cautious. Yeah. But what happened with you? Because I mean, obviously, it's not always like the biker's fault. Sometimes it is, though.
It never is. Well, not never, but I would say in the 80 percentile range, it's someone else. It's a careless driver, not paying attention. Like, so my first wreck, it was 3 years after I got out. I got out in 2015. So 2018 is when I got whacked. I was at a red light. And my light turned green and I was making a left to get on I-95. For whatever reason, I did not look right that night. I should have. I usually do, but I didn't. I saw the green light and I just went. And I was looking into the turn and some kid about 19, 20 years old, probably playing damn Pokemon Go, goes through the light, just blows through. He didn't even touch his brakes. When they did the little inspection or whatever they do after the wreck, there was no brakes that were touched. Just, nothing, man. And so he whacked me at 45 miles an hour, sent me to a guardrail, just gnarled my bike up, like, and it really hurt.
Were you wearing a helmet at least?
Oh yeah. It's a helmet law in Virginia,
Oh,
but
okay.
I was wearing like the half shell.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, it was a novelty helmet, which, anybody that rides bikes, man, dude, I've been riding for a while. Get a full face, okay, and make sure it's dot approved. Neither of my helmets were dot approved when I got whacked.
Mhm.
My nugget was pretty ping ponged around, to say the least. Like after that, after I got out the hospital, I couldn't even, like, on the ride home to my house, we had to stop like 4 times for me to puke. That's how bad the TBI was. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
couldn't. The whole world was spinning, dude. Like I could not be in a vehicle for like 2 weeks. It was bad. Um, it took me about a year and a half to get the courage to get back on a motorcycle, but I had to face it, man. Like I had to. I survived it. I knew I survived it for a reason. And honestly, I took up riding bikes to combat the PTSD, and it was working, man. Like I loved it. When I was on a motorcycle, man, I felt so free. Like, just, it was kind of like playing basketball when I was younger. It was that
Yeah.
one thing that took me away from all the bullshit, right?
I've heard guys call it road therapy. I've heard other guys
Yeah,
call it
wind
wind
therapy.
therapy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a book, a really great book, and I had the author on the podcast. Is the book's called The Unplugged Alpha by a guy named Rich Cooper, and he has a whole chapter on how men should get motorcycles and how it's like perfect for therapy and stuff like that.
It is. But either way, so like, I didn't die on the first one. I built up enough, I learned, I get my body healed, and I, start walking better. And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get on this bike again. And this time I surround myself with people. Okay. So I think I'm doing it like the right way. And in 2020, so just shy of 2 years after my first wreck, we're on I-95. I have I think it was 5 people with me. And I was kind of in the front of the pack. And I'm on the far left, and they're doing a construction in that area of I-95. So they're expanding the road, and there's a Jersey barrier to my left. The middle lane, there's a van, and his lane starts slowing up. Now, I don't remember a lot. A lot of this is other people telling me kind of what happened, because I'll be honest, man. Like, when I say I was gone on this one, I don't remember anything really. But he slows down because the traffic in his lane is slowing down. He didn't want to slow down, so he jerks to come into the left lane, but he doesn't look, right. He's not looking in the blind side. He's not. I don't even think he checked his normal mirrors, man. He just didn't look.
Yeah.
I don't know how you missed 5 Harley Davidsons, right? With, custom Harley Davidsons at that, with like,
So you were riding in a group.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's why I really thought I was doing it the right way this time, And so dude comes over and he plants me right into the Jersey barrier.
Oh, wow.
He hit me so hard that my bike never fell down. It was like engraved into the cement of the Jersey barrier. Like, I have pictures, and it's gnarled up like this, like handlebars, everything is just destroyed, and it won't even fall down. Right.
Yeah.
And I went flying into the construction zone, and I had a few military guys in the pack, so they were able to render first aid, and, thank God for that. They render first aid. The ambulance gets me, and on the way to the first, because I had to go to 2 different hospitals before I got my first surgery. And on the way to the hospital, I flatlined.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You don't remember that part?
I don't remember
the near-death experience. You don't have a near-death experience story?
No, dude. I will tell you what, on the second one, I remember more.
Okay.
But the first one, I don't. So I don't remember any of it. I remember waking up in the surgery, right before they were cutting me. And so, yeah, I get there, and they go into my first surgery. My first surgery, they didn't realize when they did the MRIs how gnarled the inside of my body was. Like, he crushed everything: my femur, my hip, my pelvis, my neck. Like, it was just, he destroyed me, dude. And so after they had done the first surgery, they said, hey man, we got to take them right back in and do another surgery because we didn't realize how bad it was. I don't know if you have ever had surgery, but they put you in like almost like a lineup right before you go into the actual surgery room, and they check your vitals, just, you know, make sure everything is going hunky dory.
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm laying there waiting to go in the room, everything starts getting really hot for me, right? Like I'm like burning up. And they come to check my vitals and they're talking to me. I think that I'm talking to them like I'm talking to you right now. I am not. I'm
You're
like
incoherent.
Yeah, I'm like blah, 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 right? But I think I'm like telling them the business, right? Like, but I'm not. I am not. So they think I'm having a stroke initially. And as they start to render aid, I just go, I'm gone. I flatline. Boom. Right.
Okay. So this is the second flatline you said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is my second one. And so they rushed me into another room. And it's where I woke up. I kind of come to in this room and I'm naked and they're holding me in the air. And I have an IV in both of my arms and my heart rate is like above the 190 range. And so they're trying to get my heart rate down. They said it was like artery busting high. Like they were really worried that I was going to actually, you know, not make it in that situation. And everything was real fuzzy, man. Like, I don't know how to explain this well, but like, I knew I was in the room. I knew I was in bad shape and I could hear, but I could like crystal clear. I could hear everything that was going on. Right. I could hear them talking. I could hear the nurses going back and forth on what to do. The doctors telling the nurses what to do. And I just was like, looked at one. I think it was the doctor. And I was just like, dude, please. I got kids at home. They need me. Please save me. Please save me. And then, you know, I kind of went out again. And that's kind of the only moment I had in the two dying. And so I don't know about this whole light at the end of the tunnel thing. It hasn't happened to me yet. I've been off of a roof. I've been hit by 2 cars.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened yet. Just darkness. That's the only thing that's.
Yeah. It might have happened. You just don't remember too.
Right.
Who
right.
knows?
Maybe,
yeah.
maybe.
Who knows?
Yeah. I guess the big guy said, I believe in the big guy. I can tell you that because I shouldn't be here. Right. Like at all. And I ended up in ICU. I was there for 7 days. I was in the hospital altogether for 2 weeks, but in ICU for 7 days. And if you know anything about ICU, that's a long time to be in ICU room. They do not like keeping you there more than a day or two if possible. So I was really mangled up. But it was in that moment that like I did a lot of soul searching, right? Like I faced me, and it was, though this was a really bad situation physically, spiritually, and mentally, this was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because I looked really deep inside of me, like, because I had no cell phone. Because of COVID, no one could come see me. So
that was in 2020 then.
Yeah, it was in 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, no one.
Man, what a crappy year, right?
Yeah, dude. It sucked ass. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
So was that sort of the last straw that got you on this like path of personal growth then?
Yeah, I knew that God had a bigger plan for me than I'm introverted by nature, right? And so people have been trying to get me to tell my story for years, even before the 2 accidents. And I just wouldn't do it. I didn't want people in my business, in my life. But this really taught me that the universe had a plan for me. And obviously it wasn't going to allow me to go out the easy way. So I might as well face the music and take the journey.
So did you, obviously we've spent about 40 minutes or so talking about just all the epic shit that you've been through in your life. And then you had to do some soul searching there in the hospital. When you sort of got out of the hospital and stuff like that, how did you get started into doing this stuff? Right. Cause you do coaching now and you speaking engagements and stuff like that. How did you start getting into that? Did you start reading any books, any seminars? Did you get a coach yourself? How did you get going?
So I am a firm believer in getting a coach. That is number one, no matter how much you think you have it together, you need someone, and not just anyone, you need someone who is where you're trying to get to. Right. And, you look at it in fitness, right? When I used to train, I used to do jujitsu and I used to train Golden Glove boxers. We had strength coaches, speed coaches, you name it. We had a coach for almost every niche that needed to be filled in that fighter's profile. Yet we won't do that in our personal growth. And it doesn't make any sense. So I am a firm believer. If you have a business, you need to get a business coach. You need to get a personal growth coach. All of this is very, very important. And I've done all of that. And, there's been times where I've questioned it because I didn't necessarily have the money. But when I did it, that's what motivated me to make the money and to get out there and really get on the grind and be about what I said I wanted to be about. So, uncomfortable action consistently is going to get results. And that's exactly what I started doing. I started, really diving in. It's really started with real estate because I also do with my wife some real estate. And they really honed in on mindset, and that's what really opened the door. And then I got involved with a group called Apex Entourage, which is awesome. It's ran by Ryan Stewman. If you don't know who that is, go look him up. He is freaking amazing. And what he's created is just out of this world, man. And it continues to grow. And it's around winners, man. Winners in life. And not just one area, right? Just, you got everything from construction guys to, people that have their own little beauty salon somewhere. Like, you got it all. And they're all about winning and helping each other grow and become better. And, putting myself in these spaces really helped me to grow and become the man that you see right now. Like, and quicker than I thought too, way quicker than I thought. But you have to be willing to do the work as well. So you can spend all the money, you can get the coaches, you can read all the books, but if you don't, Ryan Stewman says, knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. And yeah, I really resonate with that because, in the military, we did the same thing. We had coaches for everything. They would teach you a whole bunch of stuff, but if you didn't apply what was being taught, you weren't going to be successful in combat as a sniper, in combat, in any, fighting in general. Like, it wasn't going to happen. You have to begin to apply what you're learning, and having a coach to really kind of put the fire under your ass it's good for you, man.
Yeah, I agree. So you also said that you were able to save your marriage too. Yeah. Was your marriage like on the rocks there, like for a little bit then? Yeah,
dude. When I was drinking, I was not present, right? And I was an ass. I'll be honest. Like, I'm a great person without alcohol. With alcohol, I can become a very evil man, right? And it just wasn't good. I wasn't treating her the way that she deserved. I wasn't present with my kids. And I have 4 kids, and 3 of them have special needs. I didn't even touch on that. I have a daughter who had a stroke when she was 5 years old while I was in Germany. I have 2 younger ones who have autism, and they needed their dad. But I was so caught up in my pain and my bullshit, right, that I wasn't present. And I was not just losing my wife, I was losing them too, right? And when I pulled my head out of my ass and I looked at the big picture, and I kind of looked at, kind of like you look at a glass of water, right? I looked at myself objectively, and I was able to see, like, man, this has got to go. This is affecting this and that. And I call it mental gardening, but I became a gardener of my mind. And as soon as I did that, I restored my relationships, and they are, like, when I say better than they've ever been, I'm actually happy. You know what I mean? My wife is happy. She wants to be around me. I want to be around her. It's not this, and we're 19 years, man. So yeah, we've had our moment, and it was due to me not having my purpose and finding my North Star. But once I did, and I got my shit together, dude, it's been amazing. It really has.
That's great. Now, you've mentioned North Star and your purpose a couple of times now. And I found that so many men have had problems trying to even find a purpose. How can men find their purpose?
Try a whole bunch of stuff, right? Okay, to get to where I'm at right now, I've tried real estate. I've tried selling life insurance, supplements. I just explored. But this always rang true to me, right? Is being a speaker, writing, and impacting other people's lives, just like I did in the military. It kind of just went full circle for me. And so I tried a whole bunch of things. And then when you find something you like, dive into that thing, find the intricacies of it. And if you continue to fall in love with it, run with that thing. Grab it by the hair and go. Don't second guess yourself, just go. Right? Take that action, because once you found that thing that you love learning about, you love exploring, like, it doesn't matter what, you're willing to lose sleep to learn about it, man, that's probably your thing, right? So grab hold of it and go for it. But you got to try different things to figure out what is for you and what's not for you. Don't be scared to try. I think that growing up, I felt like I was taught that was bad. Stick with one thing and just do it. But if you're miserable doing that one thing, what's the point, right? We have one life. It's not a video game. There's no reset and replay, right? So we have to be happy in what we are doing. And there's most likely, if you try a few things and you start to say, oh, I've always wanted to do that, and you do it, then you're going to find that one thing. You'll find that North Star, and then boom, you're off to the races. Got it. Now you mentioned, like, don't be afraid. You, in one of your interviews, you said that hesitation is the magnifier of fear. It reminds me of something one of my mentors, Dr. Robert Glover, said. He says, thinking causes anxiety, but action cures it. Can you elaborate on how hesitation is a magnifier of fear? Yeah, man. Like, it's like turning that mountain or that molehill into a mountain, right? And David Goggins talks about it really clearly as well, but it's the anxiety, right? Fear only lasts a second, right? Like, if you're about to jump out of a plane or rappel out of a helicopter, right? That fear only lasts a second. So once you are on the other side of it, you're in it, right? And you're gone, right? That fear, like you just said, is cured by you taking that action, right? But that time leading up to that moment isn't fear, it's anxiety. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so just like anything, what I like to do is I like to isolate my fear. People think I'm crazy for getting back on a motorcycle 3 times. Like, after the second accident, I learned how to walk barely enough to get on a motorcycle at 5 months. 5 months after having died twice, right? And I have fake stuff all through my body. This hand barely works. I don't know if you can see the scars all the way up. That's after surgery. Yeah. Only my pinky really works well. Okay. But I'm telling you, I isolate it and I dissect the fear. Why is this so scary? What about it? And then I learn, right? I learn and I fully engage into that, whatever that fear is. So that way, when it's time, right, I'm fully prepared. I'm no longer necessarily scared. It might last a second, because we all have those moments where it's like, whew, here we go, right? I'm about to do it. But I've done the back work, right? So now it's easy just to go over the edge, right? And just do it. It's like a Nike commercial, man. You just got to do it. You do. Study that fear, isolate it. Don't allow it to have power, and that's how you take the power away from it. You just tear it completely apart and say, no, I can learn this. I can do this. If I do this, that negates that. And then you're prepared. And once you're prepared, what can stop you? Yeah, excellent point. Man, Chad, this has been a really great conversation, brother. That's all the questions I have for you. Awesome. Where can people find you online? Yeah, so Chad Osinga on Facebook. MrTenacity.com is my website. And if you want to send me an email, it is MrTenacity40@gmail.com. I'm a normal dude, so don't hesitate to, send me a message and connect with me. I would love to chat it up and help as many people as possible. Great, brother.
Well, I'm going to give you your night back. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, anytime. Chad, thanks a lot for visiting me. It was really cool that you reached out to me over Match FM. I'm glad we connected. Glad we got this together. I hope a lot of guys got something out of your story and, realize that some of the stuff that they're going through pales in comparison to what some of the stuff you've been through is like, and maybe that can help them change their perspective on what's going on. That's all I have this week, guys. Be sure to help me out with the Patreon. Link is in the description, or go to patreon.com/comeonmanpod. There's all sorts of goodies for you there, and you can support the show all at the same time. So it's win-win. You know what I mean? Other than that, that's all I have for this week, guys. We'll catch you next week on Monday.
This has been the Come On Man podcast. New full episodes served hot every Monday morning on your favorite podcast platform of choice. So subscribe now. Follow Paul on social media. The links are in the description. Now, go out and get it.